Welcome. In our Command and Conquer World Builder series, we will dive into the world of texture and terrain. Textures are basically a tiled image applied to a model surface repeatedly until it covers the desired area, so that it looks like the surface is made of certain material and colored. The plane or surface does not need to be straight and flat, like in our case of map ground, can have a texture while having hills and digs. It is used to reduce the graphics load on computer, whereas terrain is the 3D model of our ground. It can be flat or hilly, or any combination you like. In the World Builder toolbar, the tools for shaping the terrain and painting textures are placed close by. The World Builder Guide suggests that when shaping the terrain of your map, it is best to shape the largest elements first, and then to work on the finer details. Let me turn off the microtexture. It removes the fine details from the texture. I prefer it to keep it off while working on a map. I find working more comfortably with cleaner texture and improves the processing speed while I make changes to the map. You can turn it back on occasionally to see how is everything going. Next, I will hide the trigger areas and waypoints to have cleaner space and avoid accidentally selecting or moving them. First, we look at the Flood Fill tool. This tool will fill an entire area with the selected texture. Once you select any tool related to texture, the terrain material options will pop up. At the top, you have different textures sorted under understandable headings, such as wood, snow, desert, sand, rock, asphalt, and grass, etc. Below the list, a small window will display two textures. The one presently selected will be on top. Behind it, the texture that most closely blends the selected texture to the background macro texture is displayed. You have a swap button to quickly swap between the two. The selected texture, which is on top, is used when you apply texture on the terrain. You can check them and select the one to your liking. I am selecting one of the grass textures. Then click on the map, and entire map is filled with the selected texture. One thing to notice is that objects like buildings and roads are not affected by the texture fill. Moreover, patches with different texture from the one where you clicked will also remain unchanged and maintain their texture. You can turn the microtexture back on to see how it looks. You can deselect the top-down view to see the map as it will appear in the game. Let me place a few structures on the map before we proceed to use the next tool. It will give you an idea about the relative size of objects to the tile size. I have placed different objects, where Scud Storm and Command Centers are the largest, while Chinese Speaker Tower and Gatling Cannon is one of the smallest objects in-game. The Single Tile tool switches the brush for painting textures on an individual tile. As you can see here, a single tile is like the base of a speaker tower. A recommended flow when painting textures is that you should follow a large to small approach, as you do for defining terrain. Start with the large tile brush or Flood Fill tool to paint terrain over large areas that have few distinctive features. Then, you can use the Single Tile tool to get to the nitty-gritty. Next, we look at Large Tile tool. As you select Large Tile tool, you get the Terrain Material option window like Flood and Single Tile tool. But notice that, this time, the Width selection option is available for making changes. You can select the size in units of cells, and the size is displayed in feet for reference. You can either use the slider or type it in the input box for a more accurate control. The 12 cells or 120 feet tile is approximately the size of a command center. Here, we place patches of different sizes to have an estimation idea. Here, you can see that when we use the flood fill tool for painting the terrain, only the patch with same texture gets the new texture, while the surrounding texture, which was different, remains unchanged. An easy way to reuse an already applied texture is with the help of eyedropper. Select the eyedropper tool. Click on the texture you want to select. Now, you chose one of texture application tool to use that texture. Once the patch is of same texture as its surrounding texture, it gets merged and you cannot treat it as separate patch. You may deselect the Show Terrain. It will hide the ground texture. By default, there is a water layer that is available at the lowest level below the terrain. You may be seeing that once you deselect the Show Terrain option. But I have deleted that from my map. That is why you are not seeing anything here. Now let's get to molding out our terrain. The terrain tools in the toolbar allow you to raise, lower, and flatten terrain in large and small brush strokes. Before we get into using these tools, here are few important points. The brush width sets the diameter in cells and feet that is affected by the brush height setting. Like when we apply the brush, the terrain under the brush width will rise or dip to the exact selection as per the brush type and settings. The brush feather width is the distance beyond the center circle in which the changed terrain is blended into the surrounding terrain. It is like a slope between the height applied and surrounding terrain height. Small feather width means steep slope, and large setting gives you a shallow slope. This is automatically calculated and also defines if that area may be used by units to cross or not. We will come to this passable or impassable terrain later. The brush height is the height by which each application of the tool raises or lowers the terrain. As a general rule, keep your normal map height between 12 to 16 and keep the maximum height below 36 to avoid the in-game camera jumping while panning and units hiding behind the hills. Use the height below 8 for water, etc. We will add water ponds and rivers in next video. Now let's make a hill structure on our map. The height brush raises or lowers the selected terrain to the exact height defined, meaning the previous height of terrain have no effect. Each time you click or drag on an area in the window, the area will rise or dip as required to the set height. Let's give our raised ground a different texture for better visibility. Now, the Mound tool adds the set height to the previous height of terrain. Or you can say it raises the terrain further each time you click or drag over an area on the map. Opposite to the Mound tool, the Dig tool subtracts the set height from the previous height of terrain. Or you can say it lowers the terrain further each time you click or drag over an area on the map. I would accept that molding terrain with Mound and Dig tool is more of an aesthetic art. It is difficult to get it exact, but I would suggest you start with small height changes. If you remember from before that the texture can be applied to a surface and it does not need to be flat. So, let's put some snow on our mountaintop. I know it does not look very natural, but we will fix that soon. First, I want to get to the passable and impassable areas. Down below in the terrain option window, you can find a checkbox for painting the passable area. In the view menu, you will find impassable area option. It defines the angle in degrees, so if the slope between two heights is equal to or more than this, then that area will be impassable for ground units. The impassable area does not affect air units. If you click on the Preview button, the area shown in red color is the impassable area, while all other area of the map inside map boundaries is passable area. So if you change this to higher angle, then more area will be passable. And if you reduce the angle, then more area will be set as impassable. You can also use the texture brush to mark an area passable or impassable. Once the checkbox is set to checked, the texture brush will not paint any texture. Rather, it will paint red color to indicate painting impassable area, or remove red color to indicate painting passable area. Remember, you can mark any area impassable, but to mark an area passable, it must be having lesser slope angle than the impassable option angle selected. As we change the height on map, the slope also changes, which affects the passable area definition. Here, I am using the height brush with value 16, which is the height of terrain on this map. As I flatten the mountain, all the area becomes passable, but the texture is retained. Now we make the snow-topped mountain look more realistic. First, we make a mountain with the Mound tool. We put a snowier texture near the top. Then we use the Auto Edge Out tool. This tool lets you blend one texture outward into the surrounding textures to create more natural effects. The Auto Edge Out tool blends a selected texture outward and into the surrounding textures. When you click on snowier texture, it blends out into the adjacent texture. The Blend Single Edge tool lets you blend a single edge of a texture tile inward. It is used for detailed work towards the end of your development process. Finally, don't forget to save your map. Please leave a comment to let me know your thoughts, suggestions, or any other features you'd like me to explore next. And if you're enjoying the content, remember to hit that like, subscribe, and notify button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.